the University of Texas hasn't seen any major football success since about the Mac Brown era. But that doesn't mean that the team doesn't bring in big economic wins for Central Texas. Now, with the Longhorns and the OU Sooners planning on going to the SEC, many are wondering if the Central Texas economy could see a fumble or two.
That's when the officer made contact with Dean through his passenger side. DeCruz ordered Dean to turn off the car and hand over the keys. The officer used his left hand to reach for the keys, all the while his right hand was on his handgun. That gun was pointed right at Dean, with DeCruz's finger on the trigger. Now, as the officer pulled back with his left hand, his right hand also went back, causing the gun to go off. Dean was shot in the head. Now, after the shot, DeCruz pulled Dean out through the passenger side. He and other responding officers performed medical assistance until medics arrived, but it was too late. Michael Lorenzo Dean was pronounced dead at the scene.
Now, we all remember our first car and the many memories that we made behind the wheel. But for one Central Texas mother, that search for a 1985 Chevy pickup truck means more than just a sentimental connection.
And the day she turned 16, she was gone. All the time.
Maggie Norton remembers the day her then 14-year-old daughter Courtney came to her with an Auto Trader magazine and said she found her dream truck. Courtney had saved up money from babysitting to buy the 1985 Chevy pickup truck, so Maggie gave her blessing and the car sat in their driveway until Courtney turned 16.
Courtney was 5'2" and about 100 pounds, so she had a little bitty girl running around in this boy truck, and she wore cowboy boots and shorts, and everybody knew that truck, and it just fit her personality perfectly. And she would take it mudding, and we would get calls at 11 o'clock at night. Mom, I'm stuck. She was constantly getting the truck stuck in the mud. We towed her probably 15 times the first year she had it.
After some time, Courtney ended up trading in that truck, but she never forgot about it.
Ever since we got rid of it, she talked about it all the time. She wanted it back. She wanted it back. She wanted it back.
Time went on and Courtney grew up. But on April 25th, 2020, everything changed.
Someone was knocking on the door quite loudly. I went and answered the door, and it was the Burleson Police Department. They told me that they found her under the bridge at Sycamore School Road and Chisholm Trail Parkway in Fort Worth. Later, we found out that it actually happened the night before, and she was out there all night. And they didn't find her because they couldn't see her. Nobody found her because they couldn't see her, and there wasn't a whole lot of traffic in that area. Everything was closed down due to COVID. So as soon as the sun came up, someone called, and they called the police.
Courtney was just 28 years old.
It's devastated me. I don't know how to put into words. I had her when I was 18 years old. I grew up with her. I'm not used to being an adult without her. So I miss her.
Now Maggie is on a mission to reclaim a piece of her daughter by finding that 1985 Chevy.
When I think of Courtney, I think of that little girl in the camo, baseball cap, blue jean shorts and cowboy boots, blasting country music, going down the road in that truck. That's my girl. And I just want to find it. I don't care if it's running. I don't care. I'll fix it. Whatever. I just want her truck. I feel like that's a connection to her. And I don't have many of those.
The 1985 Chevrolet C10 short wheelbase pickup truck was traded in at Toby's Autos in Waco and later sold in February 2010. It was last registered in Waco in March 2011. The registration expired in March 2012, and the truck hasn't been registered since. Maggie knows it's a long shot, but says she wants the truck back, no matter the condition.
I think it's out there. I feel like it's out there. And, you know, I just want to get it back if I can. You know, I want to be able to drive her truck. I don't care if it's running. I don't care if the transmission's blown. I don't care, you know. But I just want to get it, you know, running so that I can drive it to the store, drive it around, you know, have that piece of Courtney. And I'll never get rid of it.
Maggie's asking anyone who may have either seen the truck or who may have information about the truck to contact her at 817-715-9604. Sydney Isenberg, 25 News. Like you said, Todd, vaccines are a key part in Abbott's reopening plan. Today, DSHS announced 1 million first doses are headed to the Lone Star State next week. Roughly 245,000 of those doses are the new Johnson & Johnson single-dose vaccine. Hi, yes, Lindsay and Ann. I did donate blood today, and honestly, it feels amazing to know that just my donation is going to help 3 Central Texans in our area. Now, 25 News partnered with Carter Blood Care last year for a goal of 25 pints, and while that may have a nice ring to it, we are looking to beat that goal this year. Now, while there is limited attendance at the game itself, some dedicated football fans are making that trip out to Tampa. So let's go ahead and start at the home of this year's big game. Now in Florida, specifically in Hillsborough, which is where Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes are going to be duking it out in Raymond James Stadium. State officials there have reported almost 103,000 total cases for Hillsborough County. Now, if we take a look at their incidence rate, which is going to be per population, and that gives us a more even look, that is going to be about 8,375 cases per 100,000 people. But since most of us are staying put for the game, let's travel to the home of the greatest football team in the league and future big game champions in hopefully the not so distant future. So let's go ahead and switch it over to Texas. Now, since the beginning of the pandemic, Texas has seen roughly 2.13 million COVID-19 cases. Again, that is based on state numbers. There it is. Now, if we were to look at the heat map right now, what it's saying is most of those cases are going to be found in those metropolitan areas, so Dallas, Austin, and Houston. But what we want to look at is the incidence rate. That's going to be on per population. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. And with that, we're going to see that there is actually faster spread along the border and into the panhandle. Now, taking a closer look here in central Texas, we're going to be saying based on the total count, again, those higher number of cases are going to be seen in the places that have the most population. So McLennan County, Bell County, and Brazos County would see those higher number of cases. But if we switch it back to the per population, that's how we're going to see where it's spreading, because again, it puts that population on an even playing field population-wise. Dogs are man's best friend, but for veterans struggling with PTSD or other mental health issues, that companionship can be a lifesaver. One Waco nonprofit is on a mission to connect every veteran with a forever friend.
It all started in December 2018.
I had been retired from the VA for about 6 months and couldn't do it anymore. I had to do something. So I started this just to help friends doing obedience training for their dogs, and word of mouth, and it just kept growing and growing.
2 years later, the Department of Veterans Affairs asked Allen to help women going through its military sexual trauma treatment program.
We found that they were really in big need of emotional support animals. They didn't really need a service dog to perform tasks, but they did need that emotional support. And I ended up taking 3 dogs out of the shelter, training them, and then donating them to the women in the program.
That's how Allen's nonprofit, Whitehaven Canine, was born. His mission? To adopt local shelter dogs and train them to become free emotional service animals for veterans. Research shows an emotional support animal can have a positive impact on a person's mental health, especially veterans. But training an emotional service dog isn't cheap.
It can cost anywhere from $400 to $1,000 per dog to train them.
Last month, Congress passed the Puppies Assisting Wounded Service Members, or PAWS Act. This gives the VA a grant program focused on connecting service dogs with eligible veterans suffering from PTSD.
Why is it so important for veterans to have these emotional support dogs?
Right now, Sydney, 22 veterans a day are committing suicide. And if we can cut that number down by helping them have an emotional support animal or referring them to another agency that provides service dogs, that's what we want to do. It's all about the veterans.
For Alan, the mission is personal. He served 11 years in the military. Without his dog Ziva, he doesn't know where he'd be.
Yeah. I know there have been times if I hadn't had Ziva around, I might not be here right now. I have been on the edge myself, so I know how important she is to me.
For many vets, PTSD has become an all too common part of their service. CJ Condren knows the struggle well.
When I first got back, I didn't know I was diagnosed with PTSD. So for about 10 years, I just suffered with it. We were trained to, eat dirt and move on. So for 10 years, I abused alcohol pretty heavily. I wasn't what I'd call a white-knuckling alcoholic, but when I drank, I tried to drink everything. It caused problems in my marriage. It caused problems with me being a father to my kids.
The Marine, now police officer, is 1 year sober and focused on training his new buddy, Moose. While he hasn't had Moose long, Condren says the hound dog has already made a big impact.
And I come home, and if I'm feeling anxious or depressed or angry, I sit on the couch and Moose just comes up and jumps in my lap and puts his bad doggy breath in my face, and it has really started to bring down my blood pressure. My heart rate's dropped dramatically. I've actually started quitting dipping tobacco.
What does the future look like for you and Moose?
Oh man, I don't even know. Mostly we're gonna try to go hunting. We're gonna work out, we're gonna run. Man, I don't even know. There's so many possibilities at this point.
At the end of the day, Alan's goal is to show fellow veterans that help is available from a four-legged friend.
That's what veterans do. Your brotherhood or sisterhood, but veterans know what other veterans go through. They can associate with it to where a civilian that's never been in the military might have no idea what they have been through with the trauma they have.
Right now, Alan is raising money so he can build a training facility so he can train more dogs for veterans. Now, if you would like to donate, visit whitehavencanine.org. Sydney Isenberg, 25 News. Good evening, I'm Sydney Isenberg. Texas is set to receive more than 400,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccines next week. More than 3,000 are headed to McLennan County and 3,900 are headed to Bell County. Now, the federal government will also be sending vaccine shipments directly to pharmacies to help more people get vaccinated. First National Bank and the Killeen Senior Advisory Board are teaming up to help out one of the area's most vulnerable populations. Brand new blankets, socks, and even food boxes are being collected for senior citizens. Some elderly citizens may be on a fixed income and aren't always able to afford the basic necessities.
Probably maybe one of our more vulnerable population, again, just with their health, limited income. So being able for them to say that they live in a community that cares about them is really important.
Now, to find out how you can lend a helping hand, visit KXXV.gov or call the Senior Center. The NCAA announcing today that San Antonio will host the entire women's basketball tournament. The move was made to help mitigate the risks of COVID-19. The tournament will feature 64 teams and runs from March 21st through April 4th. The NCAA says they will work closely with the health department there to determine safety protocols. No word yet on whether fans will be able to attend.
He was shy in high school.
Kevin Ramirez was like any other teen boy. He had plans to get an apartment with his friends and attend TSTC. But on June 12, 2017, just 10 days after graduating high school, everything changed.
So he was going to work that morning and he was stopped to turn left and there's no turning lane. So he was hit at 70 miles and he was rear-ended at 70 miles an hour and thrown into oncoming traffic.
April received the call no parent ever wants to pick up.
He was going by ambulance, so we didn't know how bad it was until we got to the hospital. They told us the clouds were too low, so they couldn't get the chopper up.
Kevin was barely hanging on.
Whenever we got to the hospital, we were told he wouldn't survive. The doctors told us he wouldn't survive the surgery. We were asked if we wanted them to try. We were like, of course we want you to try. He's only 18 years old. Why wouldn't you want to try?
Serious crashes involving teen drivers are not uncommon this time of year. The time between Memorial Day and Labor Day is what AAA calls the 100 deadliest days for teen drivers.
And it's the summertime stretch where we see a spike in the number of fatality crashes that involve teen drivers. Specifically, about here in Texas, we see about a 12% spike in the crash rate from the rest of the year.
April believes the teen driver who hit Kevin was texting at the time of the crash.
I just get frustrated that people are still out there. You still see people out there texting and driving.
Distractions are the number one cause of teen crashes. Nearly 6 out of 10 teen crashes are caused by some form of distraction, or at least it plays a role in the crash.
Thankfully, Kevin survived the crash, but it's been a long road to recovery, both for him and for his family.
He had a traumatic brain injury. He had swelling on the brain. He was bleeding in his brain, and they took his skull out for 6 months. I'm now his caregiver. I get paid to take care of him. I was, working out at the state school. I've been out there for 17 years, and now I'm at home taking care of him.
Through it all, Kevin says he is blessed to be here.
Everything I've been through, I'm still here doing life. Just being with, it's just being alive is good.
He says no phone call or text message is ever worth your life or the life of someone else.
If it's important, people can pull over to the side of the road and pick up their phone. It's that easy.
Armbruster says good driving habits start well before new drivers are old enough to get behind the wheel.
So it's important for parents to be a good role model for their child even before it's time to start looking at getting a driver's license. On the other hand, it's important once they do get that driver's license that parents remain involved. Talk to your children about distractions, why they're dangerous. Talk to them about impaired driving, peer pressure, and why it's important to limit the number of passengers in the vehicle.
4 years later, Kevin is now living life to the fullest.
I know God got me through all of this, and you gotta praise Him for it. So I just like to have fun now, just not scared to do things anymore.
As for this year, he says he has one goal in mind.
Stronger, strength, muscles, and too small.
Sydney Isenberg, 25 News.